Hi, my name is Tim Schmidt. I'm the president and founder of the United States Concealed Carry Association, also known as the USCCA.
And I'm Kevin Michalowski, editor of Concealed Carry Magazine and director of content here at the USCCA.
Hey, welcome. We're broadcasting live here from our headquarters in West Bend, Wisconsin, and we're about to bring you your live training broadcast. Now, Kevin, of course, I'm super excited about this one. This is all about dangerous carjackings, how to defeat your attacker, and ultimately prevail and survive. Now, as usual, there's lots of reasons why you want to stick with the broadcast all night. Number one, I've put together the biggest, the best bonus package that I've ever done in the history of the USCCA. We're talking up to $599 worth of our best training and our best gear, most popular gear when you activate your membership tonight. So be sure to take advantage of this awesome opportunity throughout the evening and don't miss out. Now, of course, there's another reason that I do like to get people to stick around. And
Is it free guns?
This isn't unique, but people love it so much. So we're giving away not one, not two, but 3 Glock 19s. Awesome weapon platform. We're going to be giving them away all throughout the evening. So you got to stick around to find out if you won. So I guess the only question I have left, Kevin, is what the heck is up with this door?
Well, one of the big questions we got during the proving ground was, will car doors stop bullets? So we took this car door out to the range, we put a bunch of bullets through it, and we'll show you that video now so you can see exactly what happened. And then join us live in the studio as soon as we're done.
Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Kevin Michalowski, editor of Concealed Carry Magazine and director of content for the USCCA. We thought we'd have a little talk about the difference between cover and concealment and whether or not your car door will actually stop bullets. So we've got an old car door here from a 1982 Ford something or other, pulled it out of the salvage yard, and we've got 3 different common calibers that we're going to shoot into this door. The first one is a 380 ACP with a standard 80 grain jacketed hollow point bullet. Let's see what this one does. All right, we put 3 rounds into there with the 380 ACP. Now we'll go up to 9mm. And this 9mm Glock 19 is loaded with 85 grain hypervelocity bullet that really good against human targets, but let's see what it does against the door. And now let's try 45 ACP. These are 185 grain jacketed hollow points, and so far it looks like things are pretty much penetrating the door. The weapons are safe. Let's go up here and take a look and see if we got some penetration through the door. Well, this might be a little bit counterintuitive for everybody. We'll lean the door back and we'll see that the 380 ACP, all 3 of them went right through, zipped through the door. The 9mm, all 3 of them zipped right through the door. The 45 ACP rounds were all stopped dead in their tracks right here. That just shows us that some places in the door are weak, other places are strong. You can't count on knowing exactly where your reinforcing metal is inside that door. And remember, this is a 1982. Cars have gotten lighter, but the technology has made the doors stronger. I'm going to call a car door concealment and not cover. Remember, cover stops bullets all the time, every time. Concealment just gives you a place to hide.
Hello again and welcome to the USCCA studios for our live training broadcast. Now tonight's topic is when carjackings become lethal, discover the crucial skills you need to make it out alive. I gotta tell you, I'm really excited about this topic because it's something that we all have to think about. I mean, seriously, this could happen to anyone, and ultimately you really have to be prepared. Now here's what you can expect from tonight. First, we've got literally over 70 Delta Defense / USCCA people that are here for today's event. You can call 877-677-1919 to talk with our award-winning member services team on the phone. So if you have any questions, if you want to join, whatever you want, give us a call. And of course, our whole team is live on chat right now. So please take advantage of this. Hey, these guys all volunteered to stay late just for this event. Now, we'll be here for about an hour, but I promise you'll want to stick around. First, because I'm giving away not one, not two, but 3 Glock 19s all throughout the night. Now, I'll be drawing the winners live, so it's important that you stay tuned. You don't want to miss it when I call your name. Plus, we've got thousands and thousands of people watching right now, so come on, you're in great company. Now, I know that most of you are members already, so thank you for being part of this amazing USCCA family. I'm absolutely blessed to have you guys here. Now, if you ever need us, we're here to help. But if you're new, if for some reason you're not a USCCA member, I'm going to recap what we do in a nutshell. We educate, train, and ensure responsibly armed Americans just like you. With the USCCA, you'll have complete peace of mind knowing that we'll be there for you before, during, and after any self-defense incident. We provide 100% upfront coverage with no waiting periods or reimbursement schemes. You can call one number and get the help that you need 24/7, 365 days a year. Now, as a member, you'll also get instant access to thousands of online training, videos, and articles, and your personal subscription to our award-winning magazine, Concealed Carry Magazine. Plus, you'll also get tonight's awesome special bonus. Everyone who joins tonight or upgrades their membership will get the biggest and the most expensive bonus package that I've ever put together. This thing's worth up to $599, and it includes our most popular training and gear. Yes, guys, you heard me right. $599 worth of awesome stuff, 100% free. All you got to do is scroll down and click that button below to claim yours right now. Or if you're brand new, visit joinuscca.com. Now, if you're a member, you can visit USCCA-membersonly.com. Now, if you're an elite member and you're already covered with the best of the best, I understand that you guys are out there. You're probably wondering, hey, Tim, what's going on? What about for me? Well, I have a special offer exclusively for you guys. You elite members, you can go to USCCA-elite-members-only.com to see what we have in store for you. Whew, all right, just remember, if you join or upgrade tonight, you qualify for that bonus that's worth up to $599. Now, that's just for tonight, so don't screw this up. You got to do it. All right, this thing includes a free tactical knife worth $50 and a tactical flashlight, and this flashlight has impact spikes, and that thing is worth $75. In fact, this flashlight is so awesome. Not too long ago, we got a letter from one of our members who witnessed a terrible car accident. Someone was trapped inside the vehicle, and honestly, they couldn't be rescued. So our member walks up, actually used the impact spikes on his flashlight to break the car window, and he saved this person's life. When I saw this email, I couldn't believe it. I mean, what a great story. So the bottom line, this gear really is life-saving, and that's why we're giving it away tonight for free. I mean, heck, this bonus alone more than pays for your elite membership. Now, guys, of course, your decision is completely risk-free. It's all covered by my 100%, 365-day bulletproof money-back guarantee. Zero risk, all reward, and the peace of mind that you deserve. All right, you should see that all on the screen right now. All you got to do is call 877-677-1919 or scroll down and click that big button below. Okay, let me introduce tonight's guest. As usual, we have Kevin Michalowski, the head of content for the USCCA and the executive editor of the third year in a row award-winning Concealed Carry Magazine.
Best consumer magazine in the nation.
Kevin, thanks for coming here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
To my right, we have Sam Overton, our Proving Ground trainee. For those of you who watched all the videos, you saw Sam struggle, learn, and ultimately succeed. Sam's one of our programmers here at the USCCA. He's a USCCA employee. Sam, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Tom, for having me.
Really appreciate it. To my left, the venerable attorney Tom Grieve. Of course, Tom's one of the top criminal defense attorneys in Wisconsin. He's also a member of the USCCA Law Network. For those of you who have watched our live training broadcast before, you know that typically Tom is the star of the show. So I'm trying to talk you up, Tom. But seriously, man, thanks for being here.
No pressure. Thanks, Tim.
And then, of course, we have our trainer, Susan Hutchcraft. Susan is a police officer as well as a USCCA training counselor. Susan, great job on the videos, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, so I think the first thing we need to do is to kind of review, for those of you who haven't seen the 3 videos that came up to this live training broadcast, let's do a recap of the 3 Proving Ground videos. So Matt, let's get it rolling.
Excuse me, sir, you forgot your wallet. Great day, huh?
Yes. What's up, bro? Hey, how you doing? What? You got 20 bucks I can spare, man? I got an interview I gotta be to. My car broke down. I don't have any gas. I
can't help
Can you give me a ride? I mean, it's like 10 miles up the road. I really need this interview.
I have to get somewhere with my wife. That's what I'm picking up to take care of something at home. So I won't
man,
be
don't
able
make
to.
me do this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to.
Just give me your keys.
We're going to work on some things to help you create some distance, find some cover, and to be able to draw that weapon with a little more space in between you and the bad guy.
I don't
Can't
have
help
any-
me?
No,
Nothing?
I said, get
Come
back,
on.
man.
Just
Get
give me a-
back.
give me a ride
Get back.
The second scenario that we put Sam in, the carjacking at the gas station, is really something that people need to think about. That's a time when you're really vulnerable. What are you going to do to defend your family member in a situation like that?
Okay, I realize that compilation is a lot to unpack, and obviously some of you have actually taken some time to watch those first 3 videos one by one. And for those of you who haven't, now it's time to dive in. So the first thing I want to talk about is this whole concept of the predator mentality and ultimately how criminals target victims, how they choose the people to attack, right? Because that's important. If we can understand what goes through their mind, now we have a chance to maybe defeat them and to figure it out, or maybe even see what happens ahead of time.
Yeah, and criminals might go after targets of opportunity, but they're always going to try to feel people out and figure out what's going on. And we call it the shark bump. Get in there and see how a person reacts. And if it looks like it's going to be a tough play to get the money, then they're going to go to where the easy play is to get the money. You saw that in the interaction with Sam out in the parking lot.
Right. Yeah, that first one. Yeah. So Kevin, I mean, what are some things that you can do when you're in that situation of essentially being shark bumped, to stop it or to avoid it?
Well, the first thing is that remember, you don't always have to be nice and polite. You can be abrupt and tell people, get back. I mean, verbal skills are very important. You got nothing for him. Leave me alone. I always say in all of the classes, no culture in the world sees this as a welcoming gesture. If you say, stop, leave me alone, and just make it look like you're ready for business and you don't want to have to deal with them at all. And typically, that's enough to get people to think twice about what's going on. And at that point, I also want you to be looking for places to escape and places where you can get to either cover or concealment. How do you get out of that situation you're into? Is there someplace you can go? Can you put something between you and this person who might come towards you? A park bench, a car, anything like that.
Yeah.
Just to slow them down, because time gives you the opportunity to formulate a better plan.
Yeah. To me, I think that one of the challenges of really being a good defender is understanding that conflict avoidance is becoming comfortable with things that aren't normal, right? So one of the things, Susan, the first thing you taught Sam here was you need to create distance, right? Distance gives you time to think, time to say the words that you need to say. And so I'd love to hear you speak to this concept of how can you make it so that when that potential shark bump or that potential attack comes into play, what's the smartest thing to do to create that initial distance?
Well, what we talked about initially is the situational awareness and avoiding, so not letting them get into your space in the first place. And then maintaining control so that when he came up and wanted to talk to Sam, and Sam already said, look, I'm not talking to you, I don't want to be part of this, remove yourself. Don't let him keep pushing his way into your space. So say no thank you, close the door, walk away. But the more distance you can keep in between, the more you can recognize what's going on, decide how you're going to react to it, and it buys you a little bit of time to handle it in a better way.
Okay. So actually, that was a perfect time to watch that short training video. I believe this is the first one, Sam, where you kind of learned this concept of like, all right, first thing I need to do is get some distance. It'll ultimately give me time to think and react. So let's watch that video.
All right, Sam, now we're back in the studio to talk through the carjacking scenario. You were approached by a very angry man with a gun, and you backed up to get away from him, but you got trapped up against the hose.
Yes, I was trapped right here.
Back up! Give me the keys.
I have my child
Back
in the car.
up.
I have my child in the car. Can
Back
I get my child?
up.
Can I get my child out the car, please? Please.
Get out of here.
Can I get my child out
Get
the car?
out of
please?
here. I'll pull
Please,
one in
sir.
your back. Get out
Okay,
of here.
sir. I understand.
So I like what you did. You put your hands up, you complied with him, you knew he was not in a mood to be messing around with. So you dropped your keys, he got into the car, which gave you the opportunity to push forward on him and come up with your gun drawn. By staying behind the B post, you were able to keep yourself safe and keep your baby safe. And at the end of the day, he didn't get to drive off with your baby. There's no telling what could have happened if he got out of there. This is the best way you could have handled this scenario. Great job.
All right, guys, awesome training. Now it's time in this presentation where we get to the viewer questions. Now, these are probably the most popular part of this live training broadcast, where you get to get your questions answered. And I've got a live connection. Believe it or not, this actually is real. This is a live connection to Matt. Matt's the magician that has figured out a way to get these questions to me. So let's start here. Number one, this is from Steven. What if the criminal attempts to search or disarm you? Well, from a making distance perspective, it sounds like you've already screwed up.
At that point,
Yeah.
you've already lost that reactionary gap, that distance that you want in that position. If the criminal attempts to search or disarm you, what we talked about with Sam in the initial video was not to try to draw his gun against a gun that was already out and pointed at him. Adam came out with the gun, and at that point, I would have loved to seen Sam drop the car keys and bail out and just, forget it. My day's over now. See ya. I'm going to go do something else. If the guy's trying to search you or disarm you, you might have an opportunity to get hold of that gun hand and at least, I don't know how well trained you are. I don't want to encourage people to get involved in a hand fight if they don't have the skills to do it. But at that point, why is this person putting their hands on you? Are they going to try to take you off site? Are they going to try to cause other problems for you? You know what? I'm trying to get away all the time in that situation. The guy's got his gun out. I'm looking for an escape route.
And that's what we talked about with Sam too, is the trying to, get away. Hey, I don't want any problems. Act like you don't have a gun. You don't want to have to fight with them. Put your hands up, start backing up, and maybe they'll let you create that distance if you're not being aggressive.
Cool, good answers. All right, next question. How do criminals select their targets? Are carjackings just about having an expensive-looking car?
Or maybe they just need a car for the day. They got someplace to go. I mean, I recently watched a video here in Milwaukee of someone who they caught the carjacker because they videotaped themselves beating up another person with a stolen car that they had taken because they needed to go beat this person up. So they carjacked the car, they went over to settle an old debt, and it showed up on live streamed on Facebook or something like that. They look for areas of opportunity. When people are getting into and out of cars are the best times for carjacking. And that happens in parking lots and at gas stations and right at your house or at your work. So that's the time to really be aware.
Much more about opportunity than the type of car.
Right.
If your car door's open and your keys are hanging in the ignition, huge opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you have your hands full and all this other kind of stuff? Speaking less as a cop, which I'm not, but as a former state prosecutor turned defense attorney, I can tell you how the criminal mind works here, and they're looking for that easy mark. Think of them almost like business people. They're trying to see what's my risk analysis in getting into this endeavor, which, by the way, is robbing you, okay? So they're looking for that soft target in my experience, and you want to make yourself not look like that. So if you walk out carrying all sorts of fancy bags and everything else, and it doesn't matter if you're getting into a crappy car or a nice car, what can you really do?
Yeah. If you have no opportunity to fight back, that's going to be their opportunity to move in and take what you have.
So it's almost more about situational awareness than it is about whether or not you have a fancy car.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, guys, next question. Should you ever just run away or should you cooperate?
I'll let Susan go first.
I would say running away is kind of cooperating. If they want property, let them have the property. Get yourself to safety. If they want to hurt you, then you have to do whatever you need to do. And, Sam ended up in a situation where he needed to stand his ground. But if you can give them the car keys and run away, get out of there. Keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I tell people often, you don't want to turn your back on a loaded gun, but the truth of the matter is, in most of these cases, they want the car. you know, and if that's what's going to get you out of that situation safe, drop the keys on the ground. Here, take the car and back away. You know, look for your escape route and get out of there. It's the best fight's the one you're not in. If you can get out of that fight, get out of that fight.
Right, and this is not about pride or machismo. This is about surviving the situation. Yeah. And I don't care what's in the car, as long as it's not a family member, loved one, as long as it's not a human being, basically, you're going to be thinking twice down the line. If you had an opportunity to escape, you didn't, and now you're facing criminal charges after you pulled the trigger.
We are going to have people who argue that they will defend their pets in their car.
I knew someone was going to go to pets. Someone was going to go to pets.
Okay, let's do another one, guys. What are other examples of other types of shark bumps criminals use to evaluate or target victims?
Oh, wow. Hey, you know, can you give me a light? Can I bum a cigarette? Do you got $10 for me? You know, things like that. Yeah. Anything where it can engage you in conversation and get you looking away from or not interested in the fact that this might be a setup for a sudden assault. And all kinds of little questions, asking for directions, you know, and then somebody else attacks you from another side. It's almost unlimited. They can be pretty creative.
I would say anything that puts you off your game, anything that your gut is telling you, I don't really want to be standing here having a conversation with this person, but they're making me stay and have a conversation with them. Mm-hmm. When they push your boundaries, when you say no thank you and they keep trying, when they come up and want to act like you're best friends and you've known each other forever and you don't know who they are, why they're talking to you.
Yeah, people who have spent time in prison are very good at getting close to people and getting them to drop their guards. Mm-hmm. They have to do it that way. They're not coming out strong in prison facing another guy. They're using that as to their advantage, that ability to engage in conversation.
So how do we manage that natural desire to be that good Samaritan or that nice person and want to help people that are asking for help with this concept of like, hey, this could be, you know, a shark bump situation? I mean, how do you guys do it?
I pay extra close attention to what people are doing and how they're reacting to me when they're talking to me. Okay, criminals are often looking around. If I'm engaging with you, and I'm talking to you, and I still want to keep my distance. But if I start looking around for witnesses or other people,
right.
You know, that
or
might
accomplices.
Be, accomplices. Yeah. That might be an indication. It's like, okay, Susie, I got him talking. You know, get in and take care of it. Those sorts of situations, and just tell people to stay back. You know, you don't want someone up in your personal space, and you can do that, and you can do it politely but firmly.
And I think a lot of that is the confidence to be able to realize that you can do what you need to do without letting somebody push you into something else. If I was standing at my car door and somebody wanted to talk to me, and I don't want to talk, I need to be confident enough in myself to say no thank you and close the door. When somebody comes to my front door and I don't want to buy their product, to say no thank you and close the door. Enough to stand up for myself and feel like I'm still being polite, I'm still using manners. I just am not going to let them push me into a situation I don't want to be in.
Good answers, guys. Any feedback from you guys in terms of how you manage that concept of like wanting to be that socially, you know, social good Samaritan with like the person that's really aware of their surroundings? Or?
Yeah, I think I fall naturally into wanting to help people, and that is what happened in the first scenario. Is that, and now being aware of all of those things that can happen, I have been more aware of just keeping my distance, and knowing that my distance is really what's going to keep me safe in those situations. So, and having that situation awareness. So I think that all of those things will definitely help. So.
Okay, cool.
I think the most important words are your first words, and the reason why I say that is because if you come out strong and showing that you mean business, and you come out with command language, you know, you drop your voice down that register or two, people are going to respond to you very differently, as opposed to, oh no, I'm so sorry, I don't think I have any. Let me check my nothing in my pockets. That's going to be perceived, in my experience, very differently, as opposed to if you just come out.
That's a great point.
Strong.
Yeah. Okay, guys, Matt's telling me we got one more question here in this section, so let's do this one. Should you start moving to cover immediately if approached by someone who could be a possible criminal?
Yes. Yes.
Sam, what do you say to that?
I would say yes.
I agree. And the other part of that I want to throw out there is when somebody invades your personal space and you create that space again because they made you uncomfortable, if they invade that space again, that is a huge red flag. And that is definitely time to be getting more space in between you.
And that's why we tell people to look for avenues of escape before you have to find an avenue of escape.
Right.
Know which way you might be able to move and where there might be obstacles or barriers that are in your way. Because someone approaches you, it's like, oh, okay, I can go this way. And I'm going to keep them at arm's distance or more. Back off, leave me alone, I'm out, stay where you are.
People with good intentions are going to back off as soon as you tell them to. As soon as you give them the social cues to back off, they will. So when somebody doesn't do that, that's when it's time to start finding some space.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, cool. Great, good questions, great answers. Let's move on to the next section, which I believe looks like we're going to give away our first gun. So for those of you who are excited about potentially winning a Glock 19, which is not a bad firearm platform, let's do that. So don't forget, guys, that we're actually giving away 3 of these tonight. They're worth $620 each, but of course, if you're one of the winners, that $620 is free for you. And don't forget that anyone who joins during this whole live training broadcast, when I say joins, I'm talking about becomes a member of the USCCA. Now, those of you who are already members and are watching this training just to kind of keep up to date, you're all nodding your head. You're like, well, obviously you want to become a member of the USCCA. But I understand that there's a handful of you that maybe you just learned about what we do, and hopefully you're nodding your head as well, and you're thinking, you know what, maybe this is a group that I want to be a part of. So let's do the first drawing. Matt, who is the winner? This is always a little bit of a hassle. Okay, so I'm going to, here we go. So the gentleman who won is a guy named Kenneth, Kenneth. And I suspect there's numerous Kenneths watching this right now. But Kenneth, the one that won, your email starts with the letters CORI, which has nothing to do with Kenneth, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Kenneth, congratulations. You're the winner of the first Glock 19. So way to go.
It's a family-friendly show, so I think they had to cut it off after this first.
Probably. All right, so let's move on to training topic number 2. And this is all about moving and using barriers to defeat your attacker. Now, Sam, during your training, you had to learn how to use barriers to fight and figure out how to do it. So I guess let's talk about that concept and why is it important to, after you've figured out how to get that distance, why is it important to keep moving?
I want to slow people down. I want to put as much between a attacker or potential attacker as I possibly can. And if I can get them to trip over a park bench or over a gas pump hose or something like that, I want all that opportunity, especially when I get to the point where it's, yep, this is an attack. This is happening now. We have to figure out how we're going to get out of this thing. And time and space are your best friends in that situation. And anything,
Space and obstacles and concealment and cover, if possible, is going to be your best. But at the most, get some space, or at least get some space, and put some obstacles between you.
And if the person is swinging a weapon, even throwing punches or anything else that they can hit instead of you is a good thing.
Right. So Susan, you mentioned cover. And of course, this brings up a very common topic of discussion, and I'd love for you to just explain to the audience the difference between cover and concealment.
So concealment would be something that makes it more difficult for them to find you, get to you, be able to attack you. And then cover would actually defend you from whatever weapon they have and protect you from it. So a lot of times we may not have cover available, but if we can create space and we can get some concealment and we can get some obstacles, that does give us a type of cover.
Okay, cool.
We're typically looking at cover that will stop bullets. We want, and stop bullets every single time, not just some of the time. We want it to stop bullets every time.
Cool. What do you guys think about, like, if you're in a situation where there's, like, you're in a store and there's like a plate glass or even just like a display glass, in terms of like the concept of shooting through that, what are your thoughts on that?
If you need to shoot through glass, shoot through glass. But remember, if somebody else is shooting back at you through glass, the bullets are going to come through the glass. So I watched a wonderful training video in the police academy of a police officer and a bad guy in a fight over a chain link fence. And they were both ducking down behind this plastic slats in the chain link fence until the cop realized those are just plastic slats. And he shot through the chain link fence and ended the gunfight. But they were both popping up and looking over and ducking down. And you know, it's a terrifying moment for both of them. But you could just see it on the police officer's face. It was like, that's plastic slats. And he just shot through them and put the bad guy down. And you have to remember that. If it's only concealment for you, it's only concealment for him. It's not going to stop his bullets either. So
that makes sense.
Move to a place of safety.
So I know that, you know, we get a lot of questions that come in here, and I know that a lot of people that watch these live training broadcasts, they wish that they could be in Sam's position and learning these situations and being trained. So Sam, my question for you is, what is it like to be, you know, in those high stress scenarios and have to remember, you know, to move and have to remember to get that distance? I mean, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really difficult because your first instinct is just to stop and think about the situation. And so during those scenarios, you're not really able to do it. Things are moving fast and they have a lot of things coming at you. So going through the training, though, it allowed me to think about different ways to slow down and be able to get that time on your side so you can think about the situation and react to that. So.
Excellent, excellent. I think a lot of people, when asked, you know, in a violent or a dangerous situation, what are your options? Well, it's going to be either fight or flight, right? I'm either going to fight or I'm just going to run away. But really, I think the most common one is freeze, right? Yeah. Fight, flight, or freeze. And I think it's putting yourself in a situation where you visualize stuff over and over and think about what you would or wouldn't do is what helps to put you in that position so you don't freeze.
Yeah, and if you think about all the things that have to go through your mind before you figure out what you want to do, the first question is, what's happening? And then for a lot of people, there's denial. This is not happening. It can't be happening to me. And then they finally figure out, I need to do something, and then they start moving to do it. And all of that takes time. And you don't want to waste that much time. You want to be, like Sam said, slow down. You actually get to slow down your thinking and realize what you're doing so that you can do it faster. You know, definitely.
All right, guys, I know we have another training video that will help us or help our viewers to overcome some of the obstacles and barriers, so I say we watch that. Matt, let's roll the tape.
Held them over. Come on, give me the keys.
All right.
Give me the keys, now!
Let's talk through what would have happened if you had done like we worked on in our training and taken cover behind the vehicle. So he approached you, you backed up against there. Let's say that you decide you can't come in on him, you're going to step over that hose. So very carefully step over the hose, and then you'll want to pull your gun as soon as you get to a safe place. What kind of shot do you have from there? What can you see?
I can see the baby, and then I also can see the back of his head.
Okay, so we don't want to shoot from there because we don't want to shoot over the baby. So let's move around the car very slowly. Be careful not to cross your feet and trip yourself.
Okay.
And from there?
And right here, I only can see his head. I can't see anything else.
Okay. So if you had to, you could take a shot from there. If you shoot through that window, I want you to remember that you need to shoot at least 2 or 3 times because the first one's probably going to deflect on the window and not going to hit your target. So if you continue to move around.
I can see his whole body from here.
So you have another good option depending on what the situation is. Every situation's a little bit different and you're going to have to be able to read that and react to it. So in this situation, he could have driven away while you were going around the outside of the vehicle. You handled it the best way you could, and you kept yourself and your baby safe.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let him get away with taking my baby away.
Okay, awesome training again. Now let's get back to some more viewer questions. I know that so many people love to watch these live training broadcasts because they get to submit their own questions, and then the 5 of us, or really the 4 of you guys, have to answer the questions. So. Nobody wants to hear my answers. Okay, so topic number 2, how do you stop a threat when the obstacles are blocking you? Question number 1, all right guys, how do you minimize the risk of collateral damage? I'm sure a lot of people worry about this.
Yeah, and you know, the elements of being able to take a safe shot, target identification, target acquisition, and target isolation, that's how you mitigate the risks of collateral damage. You can't eliminate them, you can mitigate them. You need to make sure you know what your target is and what's all around it, not just what's beyond it, but what's between you and the target and what's nearby the target and things like that. And in the video where Sam was engaged in the carjacking and had to shoot the carjacker, he moved perfectly to change his sight angles and his shot angles. And those are the things that you have to be thinking about. What is over there? Do I have to move to get around it or to avoid it or something like that? And honestly, using good quality hollow point defensive ammunition stops pass-through shots. The bullets stay in the target, and then as long as you're shooting accurately, you know where your bullets are going.
Good feedback. Anything else, anyone?
Just keep in mind that there's a lawsuit and a felony attached to every bullet that leaves that gun. So honestly, marksmanship training and training in general, which is something that, going back to the magazine that we were talking about before, that the USCCA absolutely prepares people for by getting the training regimens going, by working with USCCA certified instructors and so forth. That minimizing, do you want to spend $1 in prevention, or do you rather spend $500,000 and 30 years to life on cure? I mean, that's the question at the end of the day. So,
That's a great point, Tom. So actually, this next question dovetails well with Kevin. You brought up the concept of the specific types of ammunition. So this next question comes from Jeff. Do you recommend carrying rounds that can penetrate barriers, or self-defense rounds only?
Most self-defense rounds can penetrate barriers. People need to understand that. When we're like some of the tactical application rounds and from several different companies, I don't want to name them specifically right here. I don't want to miss anybody. But those rounds are built to go through glass and then impact in the body and hold together and keep the jacket bonded to the bullet long enough to get into the body. The FBI understands that police officers engage in 90% of their gunfights somewhere near a vehicle. That's where things happen. So we're looking for ammunition that's going to hold together and still stop the threat. But then once it gets into the soft tissue, do what it's supposed to do and take care of business and put the person down, apparently.
Right. Stop the threat.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, next question here. Sam, you may have to weigh in on this one. These attacks happen so fast. How can you aim under all that stress?
That is a good question. I would say going through the training really helped, because it allowed me to work on how I needed to stand in certain situations and how I needed to point my gun. And so doing all of those things helped me being able to do the proper mechanics in that moment when it was crucial. So,
okay.
I think preparing your mind. I saw a huge difference in you when we just talked through pre-planning and visualization techniques and slowing down enough to take in what's really going on and make a decision of how to handle it instead of just reacting. And there was a huge difference between the first time you went through it and you reacted and you didn't know what to do, and the second time you were able to think through it and make smart decisions and wait until you had a good shot that you knew you could take a smart shot.
yeah, and training, just a little bit of training goes a long way, because it just allows you to really visualize and think about how you would do certain things. So when you are in a certain situation, that you'll know how to react to it.
And in the second training video, Susan and Sam, when you guys were talking about shooting, because he kept hanging on to the keys, as I noticed. And something that really struck me was you were actually giving pointers, because he was shooting one-handed. And that's something that I think if you go to any range across all the different states, you'll see that virtually no one practices one-handed, let alone off-handed. And that's such an important skill to be practicing. And I was really happy to see that came out in the second training video.
I absolutely agree, and that's why all of my students shoot one-handed. It's part of the range procedures that we go through, is learning to shoot one-handed and then off-handed in the next set of classes.
Nice. Good, great answers, guys. Okay, this next question here kind of was intriguing to me, because I often have, I shouldn't say this, but numerous weapons inside my vehicle. Should you give up your vehicle, i.e. if a carjacker's coming at you, just like, oh, go ahead, take it, if you have weapons in your vehicle?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. Weapons are still just property. Obviously, you don't want them to get hold of your weapons, but is that what you want to possibly die or go to jail for at that point right there? Immediately let the police know. If someone jacks your car and your gun is in there, or they find something else in there that they can use as a weapon, let the cops know, yep, my firearm was in there, they got away with it. But it all comes back down to your deadly force decision making. At what time do you want to engage? At what point is it the time to get your gun out and start pulling the trigger? And if you can escape that situation with the loss of your car and maybe the loss of your gun, it's unfortunate that they got your gun, but you're still alive, and that's what we want people to come out of this. We want them to come out alive.
I think it weighs into it, and you might try to de-escalate and try to talk to them a little bit more and try to get out of it a little bit more if you have more, in jeopardy. But at the end of the day, we don't want to get into a gunfight over property.
Yeah. It's always, it just speaks to the point of keeping your gun on your person, because that's where you're going to need it. Imagine how you would feel if you're facing down a gun at a carjacker and you realize my gun is over there in the glove compartment and that's 10 feet away.
Yeah, well, I suspect that the folks asking this question were referring to that they already had a gun on them, but they probably have a couple other guns in their vehicle in case the zombies attack. And
And that's something that should be taken into consideration when you decide to keep a gun in your vehicle is, what all am I going to do to prevent somebody from being able to get their hands on this?
Yeah, there's some really good vehicle gun safes that you
Yes.
can, if someone gets away with your vehicle, they're just going to find a gun locked in a box. So.
And that's part of the risk of carrying off body or carrying in your vehicle is, maybe you're not there. Maybe someone just breaks into it while you're at the mall or the grocery store or something. It's just, again, part of the risk that you're accepting that when you put it there, are you going to jump into the shark tank? And the shark tank is a common metaphor that we use here to talk about what are you willing to jump into a tank full of sharks for? What are you willing to risk your life for? Friends, loved ones, family, maybe pets? Sure. Cell phones? Probably not. Hopefully not.
Good one, Tom. That's perfect. I was about to mention that, and I think that's a perfect analogy. All right, guys, this next question is going to be awesome. So, and actually, Matt here highlighted that a lot of people have asked this question, so that even makes it better. So, in the situation, you're at a gas station, right? Should you use the gas hose to drench or scare the assailant?
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to watch this.
Love the creativity, guys. That's awesome.
I'm going to vote with no. Okay. This is. People need to remember that you're using a very volatile liquid as gasoline to try to scare this person away.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Gunshot could ignite it. You're going up in a ball of flames with that guy right there. There's lots of other alternative weapons at a gas station that you can use instead of spraying a hose full of gasoline all over your car, yourself, your assailant.
And putting everybody else in jeopardy.
The entire gas station.
Do not use a gasoline hose as a self-defense weapon. There's other things you can
I would
use
say
there.
distance, movement, probably 10 other things, and then gas.
Yeah.
It's going to get on you. I mean, it's just going to get on you.
And if it ignites,
You're going up too.
Yeah, your day has become infinitely worse.
Yeah.
Okay, to get back on the serious track here, this next question, guys. What if you are seated in your car when all this happens? Now, that's a whole different ballgame.
You certainly need to train of accessing your firearm and getting it into play. First thing, can you get out of your car and get away? If that's the point, you're looking at a gun and get out of the car, give me the keys. Okay, I'm bailing out the door and I'm going to go. Or are they going to push you into the car and keep you in there? At that point, for me, I tell people all the time, no one is going mobile. You're not taking me in the car or in the van, or you're not taking away a family member or anything like that. That becomes an entirely different situation, and one that is an automatic escalation of force on my part if somebody tries to take me away. And at that point, again, you better have practiced how are you going to get your gun into play if someone's trying to push you into the vehicle and push you into the other seat and take you out of there.
And again, it's the shark tank. If they just want the car, get out of the car and give them the car. If they want to take you, or you have kids in the car or something like that, then like the shark tank, all bets are off. You do whatever you have to do, whatever you have available to you, and you make sure that you or your loved ones don't end up in that car with them.
Cool. Excellent, guys. Okay, Matt's saying we have time for one more. Here we go. This is from Mark. Since bad guys travel in packs, how should Sam have handled this situation had there been 2 or more bad guys?
That's why we didn't put 2
Sam, what would you have done?
What would I have done? Depending on what type of situation I would have been in. can't really say. So if I had two people attacking me, I would have most likely done the same thing. I would have complied to whatever they wanted me to do. If they wanted the car, if they wanted the whatever, and I probably would have went through those same steps of firing my weapon because I had my child in the car as well. But if I didn't have a child in the car, I would have just complied to whatever they want to do. If they want the keys, drop them and let them go and take it. Nothing more than that.
In that situation, if we'd have put two assailants against Sam in there, one of the things I would have reminded him afterwards is, when you get out of the car at the gas station, take your keys with you. Don't leave them in the car, because they can be used as an impact weapon if you need, or a distraction if you need to do that. And at that point, sure, take the car. Toss the keys a little way. Don't throw them real far and make everybody really mad, but toss the keys. That gives you some time to try to get your child out of the car at that point. And when you're facing a group of armed attackers, it changes the dynamics for everything. And at that point, it's just, how can I get myself and my child out of there safely?
I think the other part to consider with that is that if there had been multiple, there's a good chance that one person came up and confronted you initially, and that you may have a secondary after taking care of that one. So again, the importance of, after taking care of that situation and getting yourself to where you feel like you're safe, making sure you check your surroundings and make sure there aren't any other threats.
Yeah, we kind of called end scenario pretty quickly on that scenario there because we were so excited about how good he did. And we weren't in the phase of training for what to do after a shooting, the post-shooting reaction after that, where we want Sam, in that case, he's going to be checking on his baby. He's going to be moving to a position of tactical advantage, whether he can get inside the gas station or to another place where he feels safe. And he's got to be looking around because there might be somebody else there. There might have been a getaway driver. The carjacker had to get there somehow.
And get somebody calling 911.
Yeah.
So. And very often, of course, as the officers here know, very often, in my experience, the bad guys absolutely do travel in packs. So that's absolutely something to be thinking about. So that's an excellent question.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Great answers. Again, great questions. Keep them coming in. I know we've got a whole bunch of people that are monitoring our chat line. So there's a good chance that if you type in a good question, that we'll answer it. So obviously, Sam, you had to make some tough choices during your training, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit already. But let's talk a little bit more about this whole concept of when and why you should choose to fight back. Now, we all know that, especially as USCCA members, the whole idea is preparation, awareness, and avoidance, right? I mean, the last thing you want to do is get into any fight. I mean, that's what we teach our customers, and ultimately that's the best way to live that responsibly armed lifestyle. But eventually there comes a time when you do have to fight back. And so I guess the three questions I'd like to talk about right now is, hey, what's your life worth? When does it make sense to defend property? Right? You might be able to have a few things to say about that. And what about, the whole Good Samaritan thing I talked before about, that balance between, being super careful and being super friendly. But what about if someone else is getting attacked in the parking lot? What do you do? So let's start with the first one. What's your life worth?
Wow. 87 cents worth of minerals or something like that. I can't remember from my science classes. My life is, I want to continue my life. So I have to balance, are my actions going to jeopardize my life more than if I just give up and give whatever it is that they want? So the old saying is that to fight is to risk death. So at what point do I make the decision where, okay, this has escalated to the point that my life is in danger now already, I got to take some action to make sure I preserve my life. And if I can take any other action rather than fighting with deadly force, I'm going to do that first and see how it works. And if it still escalates after that, well, I've given it my best try. Now I'm going to try to fight my way out of it because I've decided it's already gone bad enough that they don't just want my money anymore, they want me dead, so now we got to fight.
Great, awesome perspective. What about the whole concept of when is defending property okay?
Well, the laws are going to vary from state to state. Generally speaking, you can use force in order to prevent or terminate an interference with property. But I'd have to draw a huge bright line between force and deadly force, okay? Deadly force is now we're taking that knife, we're taking that firearm, we're taking whatever it is that we're taking here. We are using force that could conceivably create and again, it varies from state to state, but create a risk of losing life, losing limb, great bodily harm, again, it's so dependent upon what state you're in. So learn the state laws where you are at. Train to those laws, all right? But generally speaking, you can use force. So if you see somebody breaking into your car, assuming that there's no friend, loved one, as long as there's not another person in there, don't start shooting at them, okay? That's a great way to earn yourself a one-way ticket to jail for some time, all right? But yelling at them and doing other things that could be reasonably necessary to prevent or to terminate that interference up to the point of deadly force. So going over there, even shoving them, may be appropriate and legal under the state. Whether that's a good idea, totally different question. I wouldn't be running around shoving people breaking into my car. But as far as what's legal, that could be legal, but inadvisable.
Do we end up with a situation where if you go and shove someone and it becomes a physical fight, now it escalates to where you have to use deadly force and it becomes an entirely different investigation when we're looking at what did you do to instigate this? Remember that we want to be the party who is not escalating. We want to be the person who is not causing this to happen or to escalate. So when we're using any level of force, we have to make sure that it's not going to cause us to go on to that next level where suddenly now the prosecutor is looking at us in a completely different light that, hey, maybe you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to go over there and try to wrestle the guy out of your car. And then you notice he pulled a knife and then you shot him and, you know.
And the chance of physical injury to yourself if you confront them and, you escalate the situation. But you were talking about the criminal laws and even beyond that, the civil liability of getting involved in any of that in the first place.
Which brings us right back to question number one in the Shark Tank of, is it worth risking a confrontation that you can lose your life in order to protect your car? I mean, I would say no. Again, barring that someone's in there that I'm trying to protect, but that's a whole different question, and I think maybe even the next question.
Well, so obviously I think we're all on the same page in terms of like property, it's just not worth it, right? But we all also agree that if it was our family and loved ones, well, that'd be no questions asked. But what about just another person who's a stranger? Some person in a parking lot that you perceive is getting attacked. I mean, how do you guys handle that?
You have to know exactly what you're getting into. What if you're walking into a fight between two shoplifters who are arguing over the stuff they just stole? Do you want to get involved in something like that? Not having that absolute information, get on the phone to 911 and be a good witness and tell people what's going on there. You don't have a moral obligation to get involved with that. You may feel like you do. I mean, if it's very clearly a really old lady getting beat up by a couple of guys, then maybe you might want to get in there and make sure that you don't let her die. But it becomes a very personal decision at that time. How much do you want to risk to get in there? Are you risking your life? You're certainly risking some money if you're involved in any sort of legal proceedings that goes on there. And you're investing now a whole lot of time and energy and effort and all of that stuff. And is that your fight? When do you want to make that your fight? Very personal, private decision.
And how confident are you that you know exactly what's going on? That the guy that's holding up the store to steal the money isn't working with the clerk, in order to steal the money with him. You have to know what the situation is and that you're doing the right thing by getting involved.
I would say my first thing would be to call 911. That's the first thing it's just to call 911, and that by doing that you are being a good Samaritan. You are helping, because like I said, you don't know the situation, and and if you get into a bad situation, then it can mess up your future. So, yeah.
Great, that's a great point, Sam. All right, so the topic here is when and why should you choose to fight back. So now let's go back to our user-generated questions. And let's see what we got here. So you guys ready? Question number one. If a person pulls a knife, can you use a gun to stop them, or will that look like excessive force?
I'm not going to play with a knife. If I have a gun and somebody pulls a knife, I'm sorry, you asked for the gun.
I've told viewers all over the place, I'm deathly afraid of knives. They never run out of ammunition, and the wounds are horrible. And
a knife can kill you faster than a gun.
And honestly, a knife is, in the state of Wisconsin anyway, it rises to the element of deadly force. It can cause it can imminently cause death or great bodily harm. And If anybody knows even the least little bit about knife fighting, you are going to be in big trouble. I give knives a lot of distance.
Yep.
All right, that was an easy one. This next one's from Laura. Can women use deadly force sooner than men?
I wouldn't say women specifically, but anything that you have personally at your disposal is going to come into your decisions. Do you have injuries? Are you smaller? Are you weaker? Are there things that you can justify that you couldn't take the chance of going hand on hand and, having to try to overpower somebody? But that's not specific to men or women, to an age, and it could just be a disability or an injury that prevents you from being able to take the chance of letting somebody get their hands on you.
Yeah, we call those victim-subject factors. You, the victim of the assault, and the subject is attacking you. What are the differences between you two? And can you articulate those differences where you couldn't, you had an infirmity and you couldn't run away, or you're certainly not as strong as this guy, or you know that he was an MMA fighter or something like that. Those factors all bear out how quickly you can escalate to the use of deadly force. And what it comes down to is, can this person imminently inflict death or great bodily harm on you? And if the answer is yes, because of any of these factors, size, weight, slippery ground, bad knees, whatever it is, then yes, you can use force sooner than somebody else.
Can you articulate, and would a reasonable person believe?
Feel the same way.
Yeah.
And having dealt with any number of prosecutors in the past, I can tell you that many prosecutors dwell on those size, age, weight, muscular. I've been sitting there when prosecutors have asked the responding officers, well, how big was he? How did that compare with her? And sometimes I remember I had a case where I had a woman who probably could have been on American Gladiator, and that did not help her out in that circumstance. And she was dating a guy who was probably about half her weight. And so everybody's different, going back to exactly what both Susan and Kevin were saying. But you just have to be mindful of the fact that it's not just a strict what's your gender or what's your age. There's plenty of people who are 6-year-old women who can kick some 20-year-old guy's butt, right? So you just have to take all those factors into account.
Not you, Sam.
I was going to say, I don't want to come across those.
All right, guys, next question here. Oh, this will be a good one. What should you do if you were shot during the attack?
Well, finish the fight.
Right.
Remember that being shot is not always immediately incapacitating or fatal. Continue and win the fight. Have the mindset that you're going to continue fighting no matter what until you have won the fight or gotten yourself to safety. We tell people that self-defense is about causing enough dysfunction in your attacker that you can get out of this situation safely. So if you get shot, immediately continue the fight. Make sure that you can finish that fight. And then do whatever you can. We say treat to your level of training. How much first aid training do you have? Obviously call 911 and get help, and then figure out how you're going to stop the bleeding. And that's the first thing that you need to do.
And that's part of the preparedness, is thinking through, if I were to be injured, am I ready to handle that? Am I ready to keep fighting? Can I deal with the pain, so that you're not stuck in shock and freezing like we talked about before? You're ready to fight through that, do what you have to do, and be prepared. Have a trauma kit available, have a tourniquet, have pressure bandages so that you can take care of yourself. You can treat yourself until help can get there.
Yeah. I finished up the Force Science Institute classes, and they pointed out through FBI stats that about 90% of the gunshot wounds were psychological stops, that people panicked after they had been shot. There was not enough mechanical damage to make them stop fighting, but they realized, they heard the gunshot, they saw the blood, I'm shot, my life is over, the fight's over, it's done. Don't be that person.
90%?
Yeah, 90% of people stopped fighting immediately upon realizing that they were shot.
Wow, that's interesting. All right, good answer there, guys. Next question here. So, obviously, Susan, you taught Sam a lot about creating distance and movement, and I know that you actually taught him about this as well. So maybe reiterate, how do you know exactly when you should draw your gun?
When there's no other option. I mean, and that's what we really talked about, is creating distance, trying to de-escalate, trying to handle it without any kind of force. And when you have no other option, that's when it's time. It should be pretty clear. If you've done the training, if you've done the preparation, if you've done the visualization techniques, it's going to be pretty clear when it's time.
Sam, was it clear for you? in the scenarios?
Yes, especially the second scenario. Definitely, it was clear. I had my child in the car. He was driving away. I had no other choice but to use my gun in that situation. So I agree exactly with what she's saying. She taught me really well on how to handle those situations too.
And again, know the laws in your state, whether you're stand your ground or maybe if you have some sort of duty or soft duty to retreat, because that's absolutely going to affect how officers, as well as a prosecutor and judge and jury, is going to respond and react to your situation. Because I assure you, if you had a way out, even if you're not in a state where you have a duty to retreat, they're going to be analyzing that and they're going to be looking at that, because it may not be written into the law, but they're all going to consider and think about they could have left. And that's not going to be good for you.
Cool. Good answers. All right, guys, got some time for a few more questions. All right, this next one here. Besides calling 911, what other steps should you take immediately after firing your gun to stop an attack?
Did you hit the guy? I mean, have you, make sure that you're on target.
Yeah, maybe the question is more like, so let's assume that you've stopped the threat. You've called 911. Now what do? You just stand there and watch them?
Well, you're going to check your surroundings first to make sure that you are safe.
Okay.
And then with the situation with his baby, the next thing he wants to do is make sure the safety of his baby. Get his baby in his possession, remove themselves from that area.
And even if you don't know that the other person shot at you, do a self-evaluation to make sure there's not blood leaking out of you somewhere.
Okay.
A lot of people, don't understand or don't realize that shots were going both ways, and maybe they're hit in a position that didn't break a bone or something like that, and they didn't even know that they were shot. So do a self-evaluation. You don't have to go and give first aid to the bad guy. Calling 911 and getting help on the way is good enough. We just saw the recent video of the robber who came back into the liquor store and took the handgun away from the lady who had just shot him. And we don't want to get in that position. Don't get close to the bad guy.
Awesome. Any other feedback there?
Well, the other thing as well is, this is the attorney in me, is looking out for good witnesses, okay? If you're at a convenience store or if you're at a gas station where you always go to and you always know there's cameras there, trust me, don't assume that they're working, for starters. And you notice who laughed here first. It's both officers laughed here first, because we all know, the three of us all know, how many cameras that are out there that just don't work, or they're super grainy, or they tape record over themselves every 12, 18, or 24 hours or something like that. Being able to spot those witnesses, those guardians in the sky that are out there, in order to point them out to police, because if you think it's going to be easy for your defense attorney to pull this video in a week or 2 weeks or a month, this is the voice of experience here, folks, ain't so easy, okay? So pull those videos, get those witnesses locked in, locked down, however you can do that in a safe way. Safety is the key.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, I think that's good enough for this set of questions. Let's move on to the next thing here, which, oh, look at that. Time to give away our second gun.
Nice.
Second Glock 19. So don't forget, guys, for all of you who are watching this video tonight, if you decide to become a USCCA member tonight, if you join the USCCA family, not only are you going to get all the amazing the amazing benefits of becoming a USCCA member, but we're also giving away at the highest level, at our elite level, a $599 bonus. I mean, honestly, guys, if you've been on the fence for a while about, man, should I become a USCCA member? I'm just not really sure. Tonight's the night to do it. My goodness. I'm pretty sure this is the biggest bonus package we've ever put together. So, come on. If you've been thinking about it, tonight's the night to do it. So, all right, here we go. Matt, I'm ready for the next winner. Hopefully the email address makes a little more sense. Oh, here we go. This will be good. All right, so the second gun winner, first name is Michael, Michael. So now I guarantee you there are probably at least 300 to 400 Michaels who are really excited, and I'm sorry to put you through this, but the one that actually won, your email starts with Spidey.
I like that.
Capital S-P-I or S-P-I-D-E-Y. So clearly a fan of the superheroes, or whatever, Marvel Comics, whatever Spidey is.
Or maybe just spiders, I don't know.
Spiders, yeah.
Just
Maybe
really into
just
spiders.
yeah.
That's smart.
Golly. All Okay, so again, the whole purpose here of doing these live training broadcasts is to help our customers, help our members, stay in the loop in good training and put themselves in a situation where they're simulating or at least thinking about all the different situations that we can be in. And that's why we send our video crews up to Iola or wherever they go to create these things. And poor Sam had to probably work late a whole bunch of extra nights because he was doing that because, of course, your programming stuff still needs to get done. But that's why we do it. Because this stuff is important. It's part of our three-prong attack of education, training, and self-defense insurance. So if you're going to become a member, tonight's the night. Now's the time to do it. However, I do have a very special announcement. So the video team has put together a very exclusive video for you. Ultimately, it helps you understand exactly what happens after you pull the trigger, everything from the prosecutors, the police, the defense attorneys. I'm not sure. I think you're in the video, Tom?
No, I'm not in the video.
You're not? Okay. Well, I know I am, so sorry, guys. No, it's a great video. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we released this to the public. So Matt, let's roll that tape, and I hope you guys enjoy this video.
Did you hear that?
No. It's okay, don't worry.
Just imagine you're forced to defend your loved ones. Do you know exactly what's going to happen after you stop the threat with your gun?
First thing we're going to do is, as we enter, try and identify the shooter. Our stress level is going to be above normal, obviously, and what we're going to do is bark out commands in a very loud and commanding voice, at which time we want you to do nothing but listen. What we say is what you should do. What we want is the individual to have his hands up, is have the individual back up to the sound of our voice backwards. We don't want him to turn, because if he does have a gun and he tries to identify it and reach for it, you know, under certain terms he will be shot. You can expect the officer giving the commands will then handcuff you. Not because you're under arrest, but because we need to secure and stabilize the scene. At that point, we'll start questioning you. What we're looking for is any supporting evidence that would support the fact that the reason you used deadly force or drew your weapon is justifiable.
Now, Stephen is a criminal defense attorney, and you're out of Milwaukee, right?
That's correct.
So how long have you been doing this?
This would be my 13th year of practicing criminal defense.
So I can imagine you've probably seen it all.
I've seen quite a bit, yes. Sometimes you don't even realize what you see anymore after you do it that long, yes.
Now, Stephen, there's a lot of questions that come into the USCCA, and so if you could kind of walk through what exactly happens, like the moment the responding officers show up, and let's say that that I was forced to defend my family in my house, and now there's a bad guy on the ground.
When law enforcement shows up, they're going to start their fact-finding, and they're going to start gathering information from witnesses, information from you as the shooter, and that's when it can get a little bit tricky. And certainly you'd want some legal advice on how to handle that interaction, because sometimes that's the most crucial time in an investigation, because you're going to be shaken, you're going to be nervous, law enforcement's going to be putting pressure on you, and you want to make sure that you express accurately the dangers that you were faced with and the challenges that you had to encounter.
You want to get the defense attorney involved as early as possible. How can that impact the outcome if the defense attorney is involved in the beginning?
Well, it's huge. It's one of the most important things that can be done, in my opinion. Number one, the defense attorney is going to know the legal system, going to know the law, going to know the players that are involved, and start to position you in the proper light, and start that negotiation early on that this was a justified shooting, that this is a self-defense situation. Really dissuade law enforcement and the district attorney's office from pursuing this as a criminal matter. If you wait and you don't have the benefit of an attorney advocating for your position, you're really left blowing in the wind a little bit and hoping that law enforcement and the district attorney's office arrive at the proper decision without really any input or any advocate on your side.
Under Wisconsin law, and actually under Illinois law also, a prosecutor is called a quasi-judicial officer, where our job is to look at all the facts, decide what is best not only for the individual or the victim, but also the community at large. So we're supposed to, if you want to call it, be a screening process for cases to go into court. Once we look at all the evidence, we decide whether or not charges and what charges should be filed in a case. So the police officers will do their investigation normally. We will then get the police reports, we'll talk to the officers, maybe talk to witnesses, and then we decide what, if any, charges we're going to file. In terms of self-defense, if we're looking at self-defense, what we have to do is we have to say that the person who fired the shot or who was defending themselves reasonably believed their life was in danger or they were in fear of their safety. So we're going to be looking at a variety of factors. If we make a determination ourselves that something is self-defense, then we never file charges. You know, it's interesting because there was a case out in the western part of the state where this new boyfriend and girlfriend are sitting at home, and the old boyfriend calls, starts harassing them. And the old boyfriend says, "I'm going to come over there and I'm going to kill you." Comes in, breaks down the door, and the new boyfriend shoots him and kills him. Now, for most prosecutors, when I read that, I said, why was he even charged? So different prosecutors can look at things different ways.
Anyone who's been involved in a deadly force incident has had a traumatic experience. Most likely, even on a small scale, their flight or fight response has been activated. So they're experiencing a number of symptoms in the field that we call critical incident stress or post-traumatic stress. And having a knowledge and understanding of what those people are experiencing is critical to being able to intervene with people and make a difference in their life after those type of events. It's very likely that members who contact USCCA have been through a traumatic event. Maybe it was something that happened recently, maybe it's something that they're currently in the midst of. But this traumatic event is going to create chaos in their life on some scale. You know, every time I walk with a person or group of people through an event, it enriches my life, my understanding, and my knowledge, and then I can pass that on to other people. So as much as I've learned in classrooms and from teachers or instructors, I've learned so much more from the people that have given me the grace to walk with them during times of crisis.
It's no secret that you can be exonerated in criminal court, but then still be sued for millions in civil court. And that's why I'm sitting here with a civil suit litigator. Her name is Amy Sahlberg. The whole process of finding a civil defense attorney, tell me, how does that work?
It's tough if you're not insured, because then you have to go out on your own. You have to go into your network of the people that you know in your community and find an attorney you trust. So if you're not insured, it's very hard. If you are insured, like for example, the people who are insured with USCCA, they can go to USCCA and seek an attorney that is recommended. Certainly, yeah.
You know, let's say that I'm in my house and some bad guy breaks in and I have to defend my family and my loved ones and I shoot him and maybe his family sues me for wrongful death. Now, a lot of people think that their homeowner's insurance is going to cover that, but in fact, it doesn't.
That's right.
And so in that case, I would actually have to go out and find my own civil defense attorney.
Yes. Okay. Civil suits are far more costly, typically, than a criminal suit because of the time that it takes. Wow. And a lot of that cost is not under your side's control. That's why I highly recommend people have insurance for something like this and verify that you are well covered.
Wow, there are just so many moving parts to the legal system, from the police officers to the district attorneys. It's just another reminder that you have to have a plan. Mounting a strong legal defense, it isn't cheap, and finding the right attorney is crucial. That's why the USCCA has a network of hundreds of attorneys and provides up to $2.25 million in self-defense shield protection. You're covered for all legal weapons, even your own two hands. But it just doesn't stop there. You'll also have personal hardship coverage and psychological support. Because guys, no one should be alone after a life or death incident. Heck, we'll even help you replace your firearm if it's confiscated by the police. Plus, you'll have the training you need. In fact, as a USCCA member, you'll get instant access to thousands of members-only training videos and articles. And that's on top of your personal subscription to the USCCA's award-winning Concealed Carry magazine. So it's time to get off the fence. Claim that free bonus package worth up to $599. Get your free tactical knife worth $50. Grab that free tactical flashlight worth $75. It's all yours the second you activate or upgrade your membership tonight. Just click the big button below and get started right now. Or give us a call at 877-677-1919. We're here late just for you. Just call 877-677-1919 right now or click that big button below. All right, now we're almost ready to draw that last gun. But first, I want to share a really cool video from this year's SHOT Show in Las Vegas. Now, if you don't know what the SHOT Show is, it's a huge event with the best new guns and gear. And this year, the USCCA was everywhere, representing responsibly armed Americans just like you. Here's a quick sneak peek behind the scenes. All right, Matt, let's roll the tape. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Now, don't worry, I'm still going to pick that third gun winner. I'm certain that a fair percentage of you guys are hanging around just for that. But before we do that, it's important for me to have a chance to share a few stories of why the USCCA is so important, not just to me and not just all these people, but to all of our employees as well as all the members. And the first thing I'll say is that the USCCA, it's not just about the gun. We don't really love guns. We love what our guns protect. And it's not just about the self-defense insurance, the self-defense shield. Of course, that's an important part of it, but by no means is that the only thing. Really, it comes down to putting responsibly armed people in a situation where they know what to do before, during, and after they're in that situation, or they're forced to defend their loved ones. I mean, none of us want to be in that situation. But if we are, we want to know exactly what to do before, during, and after. And so that kind of reminds me of another story. And this is a story that kind of goes way back. In the beginning days of the USCCA, I was lucky enough to meet Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. Now, if you haven't met this fella, he's an unbelievably energetic and patriotic, just an amazing man. And he, first time I met him, he looked at me and said, Tim, there's two kinds of people in this world. There's people who prepare, and there's people that are in denial. And Tim, denial and hope are not a strategy. And I mean, he said those words to me, and he gave me the goosebumps, just like I got goosebumps right now. I was saying them again. And so, if you're sitting here and you just got done watching this, and maybe you've been exposed to some other of the USCCA things that we do, and if hope, denial and hope are part of your strategy, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to become part of this family. You know, join us, join the folks at this table, join the almost 200 employees of USCCA, join the almost 300,000 customers of the USCCA, of people who are going down that path of becoming that responsibly armed citizen and being that person who's willing to be that first line of defense. So join me and Dave Grossman. Man, if you've ever met that guy, he will blow you away. Another story. So this was told to me by probably one of the nerdiest people I know, and unfortunately I know that he's watching this right now, but my CFO of the company. That stands for Chief Financial Officer. But he talked about, he knows a lot about insurance, and he was doing some research on actuarial studies of insurance, and he was telling me that, Tim, you realize that for every 3 home insurance claims that a person would have, they would also have 1 self-defense insurance claim. Now, the first time people hear that, it kind of blows their mind. They're like, wait a minute, are you kidding me? Because everyone owns home insurance, homeowners insurance or renters insurance, but not many people understand this concept of self-defense insurance. And so, the first time I heard that, I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy, Jerry. And I mean, I kind of like it, though, because it makes sense for people to be a USCCA member, because if it happens that often. But then he said, but Tim, there's more to this thing. And he told me that, he said, even though it happens, essentially a third as often, your average self-defense related claim costs 7 times as much as your average home insurance claim. And so that really blew my mind. So we're talking about, from 10,000 to 70,000, or from 20,000 to 140,000. And on top of the fact that, we all have insurance for our cars and our boats and our motorcycles and our trucks and all that other stuff. Some of us even have insurance on our cell phones, right? I'm sure that, you guys probably do that. And you may ask the question, well, why do you have insurance on that stuff? It's because it's expensive. It's difficult to replace, right? Not a lot of us have, 20, 30, 50, 60 grand laying around to replace all of that stuff. But I guess the point I would like to make to you is, well, what's the value of your freedom, right? And ultimately, the USCCA membership, the self-defense shield, that's what it's protecting. It's protecting your freedom. And so, from my perspective, the value of my freedom is priceless. And so, the USCCA membership makes sense even that much more. So the last thing I'll say before I pick that last gun winner, and I'm sure that some of you, especially the USCCA members, who are like, Tim, I'm already a member. Enough of this. If people haven't joined by now, they're never going to. But so just relax, guys. I'm going to get there in a second. But here's what I want you to do. If you're a person who is not a USCCA member yet, and if you own a gun for self-defense, if there's someone in your life who's depending on you to be that first line of protection and defense, if you yourself are ready to take complete control of your own self-defense actions, become a member right now. There's never been a better time. We have the biggest bonus package we've ever had. There'll probably never be a better bonus package than now. And I assure you that when you take that step, you'll put yourself in that situation where you are that front line of defense for your family, and you'll never regret that. Because when that situation happens, I want to be your first line of defense. I want you to be able to call the USCCA critical response team. I want you to be able to call that one phone number and ultimately be your backup plan. So the way you do that right now, all you got to do, I'm sure it's on the screen already, but just dial our toll-free number, 877-677-1919. Now I realize that I believe this offer ends probably in a couple hours, so don't dilly-dally. Get this done right now. So yeah. Guys, seriously, this is a great family. It's a great organization. It's not one of those things that you just buy and you forget about. This is something, it's a movement, something you join and become a part of. And it makes you a better person and ultimately a better protector and defender of your family. So, all right, I feel like I've gotten that point across effectively. So now let's choose that last gun winner. And maybe Tom might have a few comments. All right, here we go. The final gun winner is I assume a gentleman by the name of Derrick, D-E-R-R-I-C-K. And for all you Derricks out there, the email starts with the letters G-R-A-D. So Derrick, congratulations on winning your gun. And for all of you who didn't win a gun this time, I assure you that next time we plan a live training broadcast, there's a pretty good chance we're going to give away even more guns. Not to mention, it seems like every other month we give away about 50 guns. So if you like winning guns, hang out with the USCCA. That's kind of our move. So here we go. Stand by. Yeah, so one last time, just to recap, you guys, the bonus packaging, a lot of people, they get exposed to the USCCA and they realize that, that's something that I should probably do. And people typically don't like to buy what they need, they like to buy what they want. And I understand that because that's the way I like to buy stuff as well. And that's why we put together these awesome bonus packages to help you kind of push you over the edge, because I promise you, you'll make that decision tonight to get all this cool free stuff, literally over almost $600 worth of free stuff that practically makes the membership almost like we're paying you to join. And you'll do that, but then the next day you'll realize that, God dang it, I made a good decision. And now I've got this huge organization of people behind me that are literally ready to move into action if I ever need it. And not only that, but they're also going to help me, to continue down that path of being that responsibly armed citizen, and that's awesome. So, I guess we're getting close to wrapping things up. Any other comments from anyone here?
Well, just to kind of jump in, part of the reason why I'm here, right, is because as a former state prosecutor turned defense attorney, I see what happens after an incident takes place. It doesn't matter if dad had too much to drink and drove home, or kid got pinched selling a joint at school, whatever it may be. We're talking about something that goes well beyond that. And just the consequences of what's up for grabs in those first two scenarios where we're talking about jail, loss of license, loss of college, loss of career, those are pretty staggering consequences. And if you call defense attorneys worth hiring, they're going to be quoting you some pretty staggering fees to go along with that. One of the big things about the USCCA family and the USCCA insurance is talking about the fact of what's covered here. Just going back to that kid gets popped selling a joint at college or whatever, you might be looking at, depending upon the circumstances, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Now imagine how much more serious and how much more expensive a self-defense gun use is going to be. Here you are not talking about losing that scholarship or losing your eligibility for federal student loans. Here we're talking about losing your family, losing your house, losing your kids because you're going to only see them through plexiglass from here on out for the next 30 years plus. When you talk about the USCCA being ready with their critical response team to post bail, to walk you through things if you need it, when you're talking about having a network, an in-network of good, experienced criminal defense attorneys who are going to be there, who have already been screened and sought out, when you're talking about the fact that they're not going to chintz out like some rival insurance companies are, they're going to be covering 100% of the fees up to your limits. They're not going to be looking at only doing 20% or something like that. What's the difference? Well, if you've got to pay $10,000 or $50,000 to a defense attorney, do you have only 20% of that, or do you have the rest of the 80% of that? Do you have everything it's going to take in order to defend yourself when everything is on the line? The reason why I get passionate about this is because this is my life. I deal with families day in, day out who strike me as very, very genuinely nice people who didn't necessarily ask for their kid to go out and get into trouble, who maybe didn't think that they had one too many driving home from the office party or whatever it was. And now everything that they worked for is up for grabs. Most people don't plan on this. I assure you, you will not have planned for it if you ever, God forbid, do need to call the critical response team. But if you do, you're going to be extraordinarily thankful about not only the preparation that you've learned going into that, about the fact that they're going to be there 24/7 to work with you, but also about the fact that you're not going to have to come up and write a 5 or maybe even 6-figure check to a defense attorney, to experts prepping for trial, getting exhibits, and everything else that's going to be going into it. Unfortunately, sometimes when we have to tell a client, look, I'm sorry, we can't pull the expert that we really need to on your case because, frankly, you don't have the money to get the really good expert. So we have some workaround ways, and this is the way we're going to have to do it. But yeah, it would be really nice to buy that top shelf expert who's going to be able to come out and lend their expertise on this. Those are questions that you're not going to have to deal with. You're not going to have to worry about selling the house and doing all those different things if you have the USCCA. This is not a 20% solution. This is a 100% solution when you start comparing it to other products that are out there. And the question is, do you want to protect 20% of your life, 20% of your house, or do you want to protect 100%? That's why the USCCA is the place to go. That's why this is the place to be.
Tom, awesome. Thank you very much. I love the passion, and you're right. I mean, ultimately, that's what this mission is all about, and I hope that the viewers out there that for some reason haven't decided to join the USCCA yet, tonight's the night, guys. Let's get it done. It's really easy to do it. Just click the button below, call 877-677-1919. You can also go to joinuscca.com. And for you current USCCA members, if you're wondering, hey, what the heck, is there a cool deal for us? Well, of course there is. Just go to usccamembersonly.com for you guys. So hey, hopefully I could talk you guys into sticking around for a little bit more to answer a few last minute questions. But for those of you who have to get going, I really want to thank you guys all for watching tonight. We do these about 6 times a year, and everyone's a huge production. There's literally probably about 70 USCCA employees in the office right now, which is 8:30 p.m. Central Time at night. We've got the whole call center staff. We've got lots of people monitoring chat. Of course, we've got our amazing video crew and audio crew that are just crushing it. These guys are top notch, and I really appreciate everyone involved in this production. Certainly, I appreciate you guys coming. It's truly an honor to serve this community. There's nothing more amazing than going to a USCCA expo or even an NRA convention and running into lots of USCCA members, and the love is just amazing. So I know that you can scroll down a little bit on the webpage that you're watching this right now. Please feel free to leave your feedback and comments. For those of you who maybe came in a little bit later, I know that a replay is going to be sent to you shortly. Please share this with family and friends. And yeah, thanks for sticking with us. Awesome. So let's get to a few more questions. Stand by. Okay, closing questions. Let's see here. Here's number 1. From an undisclosed questioner, should I start carrying a gun even if I'm not completely sure how to handle all of these training situations? Whew, that's a good question.
If you're completely sure how to handle your gun, yes, start carrying your gun, and then get as much training as you can. I don't want to make it seem like I'm completely sure how to handle every situation either. Each of these are going to be unique. There's simply no way to know everything that's going to happen. When we put together the Proving Ground, we had the benefit of being able to script out what we kind of thought Sam was going to do. And we've done, this was Proving Ground 10, we've done 10 Proving Grounds, we've never got it right. We've never been able to predict what the trainee is going to do in that situation. So if you understand your local laws and you are responsible enough to carry your gun safely and utilize it safely, start carrying your gun, because you're not going to get comfortable by leaving that gun in the gun safe and not taking it with you.
Good answer.
Right. I mean, purchasing a firearm and then not carrying it is kind of like purchasing that musical instrument, that guitar, that banjo, that piano, or whatever. But even the best guitar player in the world isn't going to be able to look at sheet music and be able to play it all through perfectly at the right pace, probably first time through. It's going to take time and practice. And as I know, I've heard Kevin say any time, and you're going to correct me, so I'm sure I'm going to botch this, but the body cannot go where the mind has not already been.
Right.
Did I nail it?
Absolutely. Perfect.
All right. It's a good one to remember. The reason why I say that is because, again, you're not going to have every single scenario nailed, as we've talked about here. But being as trained as you can and being here at the live training broadcast, engaging with the USCCA training network, reading the magazine, and looking at all those different scenarios, this is going to help to bring your mind to all these different places. But keep doing everything possible to keep closing that training gap between where you're at and, God forbid, where you may find yourself someday.
Awesome. Good answers, guys. Okay, this next one's a doozy. What happens if you stop an attacker with your gun, but you find out that you're in a gun-free zone?
For years, I looked at the Wisconsin statute against carrying a concealed weapon as what's the worst that's going to happen. If you use your gun properly and you weren't supposed to be carrying your gun, the fact that you weren't supposed to be carrying your gun is probably the least of your problems. Sure. If you use your gun improperly and you weren't supposed to be carrying your gun, the fact that you weren't supposed to be carrying your gun is going to be the least of your problems. if you wind up in a gun-free zone, and Tom, I'll let you take it from here. The prosecutor gets to make that decision. There's prosecutorial discretion on what they're going to do to you, and how many people did you save, or what happened.
Yeah.
So,
But be honest about it. Don't cover it up.
yeah. So.
Well, if you used your gun, I mean, everybody's going to know, oh, that's the guy that shot the bad guy, or whatever the case may be. And as soon as Kevin started talking, he flashed me a smile. I knew he was going to throw the ball my way. So, I mean, look, going absolutely back to what Susan said, lying and try to cover it up, that's not really going to get you anywhere. It's not going to score any kudo points. It's not going to make you come off as any more believable when you tell things that maybe people didn't see, maybe there wasn't a witness to. Now, at the same time, I want to stress the difference. There's a difference between necessarily spilling your guts and telling everybody everything right there at the scene right away versus reserving your right to silence. Now, again, certain things are going to be evident. The fact that if you pulled out your firearm and used it in that gun-free school zone, God forbid a mall, a movie theater, or even a school or something like that, it's going to be pretty evident that, oh, yeah, that was the guy who did that, okay? I wouldn't necessarily run away from those facts, and certainly don't lie about it, but at the same time, I'm always cautious about having clients go into all these minutiae and details, because even if you think you got everything right, I've defended people in self-defense gun use cases where they were ultimately cleared after we got through everything with the prosecutors and got through everything with the police. And I had a gentleman who used a firearm in self-defense, and he told the officers which block he was on. The problem is he was on the wrong block. He told them a totally different block, like multiple blocks away, and had everybody scratching their heads like, what's going on here? Now, there was video that exonerated him from the whole thing, but it didn't change the fact that at that moment when he was telling law enforcement what happened, he was sure in his mind that this is what happened at that time. This is where I was. And you will probably be equally sure about things that you're wrong about. This is the reason why you need to take time, cool off, settle down, talk with your defense attorneys, get some sleep, and figure out, okay, in a calm and controlled environment, here's what happened, write down my thoughts, and go through it in your head. Because almost certainly, you will not have access to witnesses, you will not have access to videos if and when you're going to make that statement. And it needs to be perfect the first time.
Good feedback. This next question actually dovetails perfectly. How do the police know who shot first or started the attack if both parties have a gun?
Witnesses?
Witnesses.
There's a lot that goes into that.
Physical and forensic evidence on the scene, and do things match up with what you say? If you say, I was standing here, where did your breast fall? Stuff like that. And like Tom says, witnesses, there's video cameras everywhere. We are in the video age right now. There's video
some of them
cameras
even
everywhere.
work.
Yeah,
So,
some of them even work. So obviously, when you're making your statement to the police, we want you to make a statement that is accurate and truthful, and to the best of your recollection. And you know what? It will typically bear itself out. There's typically something that's showing up on the scene that says, yep, this is kind of what happened here. And then we put all the rest of the pieces together with the witness statements and your statement, and we get to that point. But then it comes down to the attorneys arguing it out in court. And what information do they have, and how can they use it?
Right. In the absence of any kind of video camera, or the bad guy confesses, which I almost laugh at saying that because it rarely happens that way in a defensive gun use, at least not in any of the cases I've had. The bad guy is always claiming victim, unfortunately. Something that you learn when you're a young prosecutor or when you're a defense attorney, when we're training defense attorneys at the firm, preparing them for trial, is the fact that juries these days have a misinformed bias when they walk into the courtroom with them. And it comes from the media, it comes from Hollywood. It comes from the fact that we have this expectation in our mind that everything is going to be solved by lasers and bones and cameras and all this other kind of stuff. And it's just not the way it works most times. You'd be surprised how two dueling experts can be dueling about what this flash burn means on someone's hand versus what that angle of the shot means over there. This all too often turns into a he said, she said, or sometimes a he said, or whatever it might be. This is a much more of a gray area than people at home realize it is. And the men and women in law enforcement get it because they're always piecing together people's stories day in, day out. They understand how murky this is. But my experience, and if I could only just tell one thing to someone outside the criminal justice system, it's when you're looking in, Hollywood makes this all feel black and white, and that eventually there will be a black and white answer out there. And it is almost never that way. It's almost always dueling witnesses, whose story makes sense, which story standing out is that one doesn't fit with the rest, and going from there. And your attorney is going to have to be able to piece together all those different parts to come up with the, okay, here's what's going on, and what do we do with that now?
Wow, great response, Tom. All right, guys, Matt is telling me we have time for one last question, so here we go. What happens after you use your gun in self-defense? Will you lose your CCW rights while they investigate? What else?
Sure. So a lot of the answers, unfortunately, I'm going to give the quintessential attorney answer. It depends. Okay. First off, that gun that you had that you may have used at the scene, that's gone for now. Okay. And there's a very good chance that you're never going to get that back. So let's just take that as baseline. I'm not saying that's fair. I'm not saying that's just. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Accept it. Move on. The next step is, are you going to be getting charged with a crime? Because if you are going to be charged with a crime, almost certainly, and I struggle to envision a reality, at least here in Wisconsin where it's different, and I'd bet that the same is true in virtually every other state, one of your standard conditions of bail is going to be if you're accused of using a firearm or a deadly weapon as part of an offense, you're going to have a term and condition of your bail being thou shalt not possess any firearms or deadly weapons. Okay. Here in Wisconsin, and again, I imagine that it would work similarly in other states, as soon as you get this prohibited possessor indication on your criminal record, the DOJ gets notified, and you're going to get a fun little letter in the mail saying that you have X amount of days, 3 days, 5 days, whatever it might be, to surrender your concealed carry license in person to whoever it might be that they designate. As an attorney, I always tell my clients, it is what it is right now, you're going to have to do it. But that's what you can expect to be coming down the pipes should things progress to that point.
Oh, good answer. Any other things to add to that?
No, and Tom made a perfectly good point. Is any weapon that's used in the action is going to be seized, and it's going to be taken as evidence. And it's unfortunate. You may not get it back. It may be years before you get it back. But sometimes we tell people, have a second gun at home, and they're going to seize the gun. And even if you're not charged with a crime, you're going to need another gun if you want to protect yourself.
I was representing a former detective who was cleared not guilty to jury trial. That case is, I don't know, a couple years old. He still doesn't have his service weapon back at this point. So it takes time. And again, we're not defending the system, just the opposite. We're trying to explain the system so that you can be informed and prepared about what's going to happen.
Wow. All right, guys. What an awesome session tonight. Thank you all so much for participating. Susan, Tom, Sam, Kevin, you guys did a great job. Susan, I'd love for you to share your website for those of who are watching this. Hopefully tens of thousands of people want to connect with you for more training.
All right, thank you.
So what's the URL?
So my company is Not a Victim Training, and my website is notavictim.training.
Cool, notavictim.training. I'm not sure if we have that on the slide, but I'll say it again, notavictim.training. So Susan, again, awesome job. Thanks for all the assistance. I know that Sam's super pumped, so good work. Tom Grieve, as usual, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to me that you're willing to come all the way up to West Bend and share all your knowledge with our prospects and our members. I do recall that I believe last time when we kind of gave a shout out to your website, you got a whole bunch of positive feedback, which I know is good for your business. So for those of you who like Tom Grieve, hopefully it's all of you. For those of you who don't like Tom Grieve, just kind of keep to yourself. but if you like Tom, which I'm not sure how you couldn't like him, what's the best way to support you?
Sure. The best way, the single best thing that we can have you do is jump on Google. Google Grieve Law. That's GRIEVE, Echo Victor Echo, GRIEVE Law, in Brookfield, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, wherever you want, and leave us some Google feedback. So that's the part where you choose how many stars between 1 to 5. The internet is a fickle creature, so I always tell folks, look, if you felt like we were helpful, I'd ask for a 5-star review. It's one of those things where a 4-star they kind of take as failure. So again, it is what it is. So if you felt like we had informative knowledge and information that I was able to help out folks with, it would be tremendously appreciated if you could do a 5-star Google review feedback, and also like our page on Facebook, Grieve Law.
Awesome, perfect. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to not only participate in the training, but be here tonight. If I try to put myself in your shoes of a young man that works at this company and actually submitting yourself to this sort of scrutiny and challenge, I admire you for doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. And Kevin, as usual, you're always one of the anchors of this live training broadcast, and it means a lot to me that you're willing to continue to do this.
Thank you. I just love being here and working with Sam and Susan. This was a great one. It's going to be kind of hard to top this one. So.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a good one. And I'm also going to give a quick shout out to all of the Delta family that's working right now to make this happen. I know that our member service agents are probably slammed with phone calls, so hopefully the wait time isn't too much. I know that we work hard to make it so that when you call us, you pretty much get a human right away. And all of the folks monitoring the chat, as well as our awesome video team that now we have this fancy technology that we couldn't afford a couple years ago, so that's awesome. But of course, the technology is nothing without the experts that run it. So thank you guys as well. For those of you that are current USCCA members, man, you guys, I love you. I'm so glad you're part of the family. I mean, this is why we do this, to support you, to help you, continue your passion, your desire to be that responsibly armed citizen. And without you guys, none of this stuff would work. For those of you who recently maybe stumbled upon the USCCA, and you're probably scratching your head right now thinking, what the heck, how did I never hear about this amazing organization? Well, you know what to do. Go to joinuscca.com. Give us a call at 877-677-1919, or click. Apparently there's a button somewhere on this webpage below. Click that thing, because if you don't do it tonight, you're going to miss out on the nearly $600 bonus package. Now, I know that may sound like, oh yeah, I get it, Tim. You're just trying to bribe me into joining tonight to get the $600. You're exactly right. That's how that works. Because if you don't do it tonight, it's going to go away and you're still going to need to join. So I guess that's pretty much all we got. Awesome session, great videos, great training, great expertise, awesome crew. So everyone, love you guys. Take care and stay safe.